Welcome, my young friend. Tonight, you will live in the world of Game of Thrones, but not as a knight, or a lord, or a dragon rider. No, tonight, you are just a humble servant, moving through the cool stone corridors of the Great Pyramid of Meereen. A hand always near the goblet, the cloth, the doorframe, never raised in power. You will hear the foreign tongues of freedmen echoing through marble halls. Smell the perfumed oils of new rulers. Feel the smooth floors beneath your sandals. Floors once stained with blood, now polished in silence. You will know the shape of this city, not from its rooftops, but from the steam of its kitchens and the weight of its ceremonial bowls. You are not chained, no, not anymore. She broke those. She, the queen, the one who came from the fire with wings behind her. So get comfortable, close your eyes, and let the pyramid rise around you. This is your story now. Now we begin. You wake to stone, cold against your side, as always. The cot is small, not meant for comfort, only for not dying. Above you, the ceiling curves upward into a dome so wide it disappears into shadow. You don't look up. There's no time. The bells haven't rung, but you know what hour it is. You always wait before them. It's better that way. The pyramid stirs slowly, like an old beast. It hums before it breathes. You sit up, and the fabric clings to your back with the sweat of another Meereenese night. Still no breeze, still no birdsong. Just the muffled silence of sandstone and command. You dress without thought. The robe is brown, the color of nothing. Not a master's blue, not a soldier's red, not a priest's white. Just cloth. You tie the sash 3 times, not for ritual, but because once it slipped loose in front of Grey Worm, and you'd rather not feel his eyes on you again. The corridors are empty, cool, lit only by slivers of torchlight that tremble in the bronze fixtures. Your feet remember every crack in the stone. You walk past rooms with thick curtains. Behind one, a scribe snores through scrolls. Behind another, a healer counts herbs for soldiers still bleeding from the last uprising. You carry no sword, only a tray. Polished wood, carved handles, 4 indentations for 4 cups. It's not a noble task. But today, the queen returns. You haven't seen her since the ships came. Since the noise began outside the walls, like thunder trying to climb through the harbor. But even before that, you loved her. Or something like love. The kind of love that rises from the absence of pain, from the memory of shackles and the sound they no longer make. She broke them. You saw it. You felt it. And now, you carry a tray in her house, not a chain around your throat. They whisper in the kitchens that she rides on fire, that the air bends when her dragons pass, that the old gods look away when she walks. You've never seen her up close, only glimpsed her shadow on the stairs, once, when your hands were too full to bow. But today, she returns, and you will be there, just behind the pillars, cloth in hand, eyes down, and ears open. You descend without speaking. The steps are wide and shallow, worn down by hundreds of bare feet like yours. They curl inside the pyramid like the ribs of a beast, spiraling toward its heart. You know how many steps there are, not from counting, but from carrying. Every tray you've balanced, every goblet you've filled, every bead of sweat that slid from your neck onto polished stone. Voices echo from the hall below, not loud, not yet. You recognize the tone, not the words. High Valyrian, smoothed by the tongue of power. It is the queen's tongue, and though you do not speak it, you know its weight. When she speaks, others step back, even those who once held whips and names. You pass through the archway slowly, eyes low. The Hall of Echoes they call it, though no one calls it that aloud. The great throne room of Meereen, columns like towers, ceilings like sky, and at its center, the throne, sharp-angled, geometric, carved into the very shape of judgment. A triangle raised to remind all who enter, you are smaller than this. You keep to the wall, the way you were trained. One hand on the stone, one hand on the tray, a cloth draped over your wrist. Your route is precise. Past the columns, behind the brazier, no closer than 10 paces to the queen's dais. Close enough to hear, never to see directly. The air smells like dust and oil, not incense. The priests were dismissed 3 days ago. The queen does not like performance when war drums sound beyond the city. The scent that remains is from burning torches and oiled leather. And sweat, not yours, not yet. At the far end of the hall, you see movement. A ripple of dark red cloth, then pale hair, unmoving. She is seated already. The queen, Daenerys Stormburn, the breaker of chains. She is smaller than the throne, but heavier than the hall. You do not look long. Beside her, another figure moves, slighter, less rigid, with a gait that is neither military nor noble. You know him by his voice alone. The queen's hand, the dwarf with the lion's tongue, Tyrion of House Lannister, a name once cursed in this city, now carved beside hers in foreign tongues. He speaks softly, gesturing toward one of the pillars. You do not hear the words, but the rhythm is familiar, measured, political, tired. You move to your place behind the nearest curtain. This is where you wait, where you listen, where you pretend not to exist. But today, something feels different. The torches burn lower than usual. The guards shift more often. And outside, beyond the pyramid skin, the air carries a strange tension, like the silence before lightning, or the pause before breath. A runner enters, short, gasping, cloaked in the colors of the harbor watch. He does not wait to be announced. He kneels and says nothing, only holds a scroll, sealed in black wax. Tyrion steps forward, takes it, breaks it. His eyes do not widen, but his shoulders drop, just slightly. Then he turns to her. You cannot hear the words, but you know what they mean. The ships have come. You remain still behind the curtain. Your hand tightens around the edge of the tray, not from fear, but from instinct. Stillness is survival here. Stillness is what keeps you from being seen. The queen does not speak right away. She rises instead. The sound is soft, just the shift of fabric and the click of her sandals on the stone, but it changes the entire hall. Guards draw breath. Advisors glance sideways. The echo of her movement ripples up into the heights of the pyramid, where even birds dare not roost anymore. Tyrion follows one step behind, speaking again. His words are quiet, but his tone carries warning. You hear phrases now, just fragments. Approaching from the east, joined fleets. 3 banners, 1 red, 1 black, 1 gold. It is not a surprise. Everyone knew this would come. But still, now that it's here, it thickens the air. The kind of tension that coats the tongue and tastes like iron. The queen says nothing. She descends the dais slowly. The throne watches her go, untouched, alone. Your instructions are clear. When she leaves the hall, you remain. But today, something in you bends. Not enough to disobey, never that, but enough to move. Quietly, carefully, you press deeper into the shadows. A corridor behind the throne. A servant's passage, not forbidden, just forgotten. You follow, not far. Not to spy, you would not dare, but to be closer. To understand what the rest of the city will only hear in whispers. The halls she walks are narrow and lined with lanterns. Guards step aside for her without a word. She does not acknowledge them. She does not need to. At the top of the stairwell, the air shifts. A gust, unnatural, flows downward. Not from a breeze, but from wings. You reach the edge of the outer terrace. Not on it? No. You stay behind the slatted wall, in the servants' crawl space, between stone and open sky. But from here, you see it. The queen steps forward, alone, into the morning light. The city below spreads like a broken map. Rooftops, alleyways, smoke. And beyond, the sea. Ships, dozens, maybe more. Their sails glimmer in black and red, like open wounds. Their hulls slide through the bay like spears through flesh. And from the lead ship, you hear the drums. Not war drums, not yet, but deep, rhythmic thuds. Measured, arrogant, certain. You press closer to the slats. The wood creaks. You do not care. Behind her, the sky cracks. Not with thunder, with wings. First, the shadow. It spills over the courtyard like a passing storm. Then the sound, wind, split and churned by impossible wingspan. Finally, he appears. Dragon. The queen does not flinch. She raises a hand, and he lands. Stone cracks, dust rises. The terrace trembles under the weight of him. Black scales shimmer in the morning sun, edged in red. His eyes do not blink. His tail coils around the edge of the pyramid like a serpent around prey. She steps forward, touches him once, and then she climbs. No saddle, no harness, just her hand in the dragon's back. Like this is not the first time. Like this was always meant to happen. You forget to breathe. When the dragon rises, the wind knocks you backward against the stone. You cover your face, cloth fluttering. The sky becomes motion. The sea becomes flame and waiting. Somewhere behind you, bells begin to ring. She is gone, and the world is about to change. You do not stand. You crouch, one hand on stone, the other gripping the fallen tray. The cloth dangles, forgotten. Above you, the air still churns where the wings once were. Heat clings to the wall like dampness. Dust settles on your shoulders in slow, deliberate motion, as if the pyramid itself exhales after holding its breath. You've never seen her ride him before. Dragon, the biggest. The black one with fire beneath his ribs. You heard stories of charred bones outside the city, of horses turned inside out, of screams that never finished. But stories are different when the wind from his wings scrapes your skin. You rise only when the air calms enough to steady your legs. Then you walk, not quickly, not anymore. Something in your pace adjusts itself. This is not the world from an hour ago. Down the hall, other servants move, quiet, low to the ground, as if sound itself might provoke something. One of them whispers, "She's flown toward the bay." Another, "The ships are burning." You don't ask questions. You don't need to. You feel it through the stone. By the time you reach the lower terrace, the queen has vanished into sky, but the world below has begun to glow. The ships that once looked like black teeth in the harbor now flicker at their edges. Smoke rises like fingers. You squint through the haze. They're not retreating. Not yet. Arrogance makes poor sailors. From the southern stair, a new noise emerges. Metal boots on stone, the unsullied, hundreds of them, marching with precision only war can teach. You step aside before they tell you. They do not nod. They do not acknowledge. Their shields bear no sigils, only the color of intention. Among them, a man you recognize, Grey Worm, the commander. Tall, motionless even when moving, his eyes scan the rooftops, the alleyways, the sky. He knows what's coming next. You find a place between two pillars, where the shadow stretches just long enough to hide a servant. You watch without being seen. Minutes pass. The flames grow. The noise rises. Not screams, not yet, but something deeper. Drums on the water shift to shouting. The sails waver. You see small figures on decks, pointing upward, weapons raised. They think they can fight the sky. Then it comes, not the queen, not yet. The second dragon. From the northern sky, green gold scales shimmer in a wide arc. Rhaegal, the middle one. He dives not like a bird, but like a weapon thrown by a god. His breath lands not on the sails, but through them. Canvas ignites, masts explode, wood splits into bloom. You cover your ears too late. The sound enters your bones. Ben the Third, Viserion, pale and cruel. His fire burns white at the edges, blinding even in daylight. The harbor becomes a furnace. Ships do not sink, they vanish. Some crew leap into the water. You cannot see if they burn before, after they touch it. The wind changes direction. It carries ash now. Hot, gray, bitter on the tongue. You taste cinders. And then, a break in the fire. Silence, like the held breath of a god. 3 dragons hover. One larger central. Dragon. The queen rides him as if molded to his spine. Her hair does not move. Her face unreadable. Below her, the remaining ships begin to turn. Too late. You return inside. The light outside lingers, golden and cracked by smoke, but the corridors of the pyramid remain cool. Shadow clings to the corners like old silk. The heat doesn't reach here. Not the real heat, not the heat that melts wood in screams. You pass other servants in silence. No one speaks today unless they must. There's a rhythm to days like this. Tension takes the voice first, the appetite second, and sleep last. In the western corridor, a boy cleans brass bowls with wet linen, his hands red from rubbing. He doesn't look up. You know him only as Lem, not short for anything. He used to be a rat boy. Now he's a basin boy. One day, if no one notices, he'll be a gate boy. Past him, 2 women scrape candle wax from the floor, murmuring in Nathi. You don't understand their words, but you know the tone. Habitual concern, layered in chores. At the basin, you wash your hands without hurry. The water is cold, pulled from the well beneath the pyramid. Someone left lemon peel floating in it, not for scent, but because someone once heard it wards off flies. No one remembers if that's true. No one cares enough to stop. You dry your hands on your own robe. The linen cloths are reserved for guests, and you are not one. Even here, even now. Further down, through the stone slit that serves as a window, you hear the market. It still hums, though quieter than usual. Merchants call with less voice. Carts roll slower. The butcher down Iron Row sharpens his cleaver on stone, the screech echoing upward like a bird that never lands. You once bought a fig there. Once. It cost 3 days' coin and rotted by evening. In the shade behind the kitchens, old men sit in circles. Not beggars, just unused. They shuffle tiles, roll bones, stare at corners. Some say nothing for hours, only gesture. Others hum. One repeats the same sentence over and over. Fire is not flame. Fire is hunger. You don't correct him. On the lower tiers, the slaves no longer call themselves that. Not out loud, but they still carry things the same way. Eyes down, hands full. One woman carries stones in a basket, only to dump them, then carry them again. No one questions her. Perhaps no one sees her anymore. Near the animal pens, a man sharpens a stick into a spear, not for use, just to feel the shape of something dangerous in his hands. The dogs bark more often these days. They smell something coming long before the people do. You pass a mural half finished, painted by children with dull pigment, a sun with wings. A figure beneath it, arms open. The face is wrong, too soft, too wide. But the hair is silver. Everyone knows what it's meant to be. No one paints over it. You reach your usual resting spot, a niche behind the fountain where the moss grows between bricks. You sit, carefully. You place the tray beside you. For now, no one calls. And so you listen, to the water dripping from stone lips, to the whisper of sandals far away, to a city that tries to hold its breath as if silence could protect it. The stone behind you is cool, even now. It has memory, or so the older servants say. Not memory like a man, but like a sponge. It remembers weight, pressure, blood, the way fire once licked the outer walls when the last masters tried to cleanse the city with fear. You weren't there, but the bricks were, and they hum differently when you lean your back to them. You shift slightly, just enough to let the breeze from the corridor kiss your ankle. The fountain beside you spills slowly, one drop at a time, catching in a copper bowl that hasn't been cleaned in weeks. No one complains. The copper stains give it character, someone said. You don't remember who. Maybe you said it yourself. Down the hall, a bowl falls. The sound is small, metal on tile, but it carries like thunder through the quiet. No one shouts, no one scolds. A child hurries past the archway, eyes wide, hands empty. You think he might be new. His feet slap the ground too loudly. You make a note to speak to him later. Soft steps save lives here, even when there's no one trying to take them. You pick up the tray again, not because you were called, but because the day is long and work is endless. It's always safer to be in motion than to be in thought. You return through the same corridors, the servant's artery that runs just beneath the veins of nobility. Here, the walls are plain, the torches smoky, the air filled with laundry and lemon water. You pass the laundry mistress, her voice always raspy, even when kind. She nods to you, hands busy folding robes that will never touch the shoulders of those who speak in the hall. She tells you, with no emotion, that a feast is being considered. Not announced, considered. A gesture of control. Bread and honey, perhaps. Boiled fish. Something that smells like celebration, even if no one smiles while eating it. You nod. You do not speak. She prefers silence from the hands that carry. At the inner stairwell, you pause. Not for rest. You don't allow yourself rest between one hallway and the next. You pause because there is a mural here, older than the others, carved into the wall, not painted. It shows a city, not Meereen, but something like it. Tall towers, winding streets, tiny figures kneeling before a woman with a dragon coiled around her shoulders. The woman has no face, just a blank oval. Someone once scratched a line across it. You don't know why you always look at it, but you do. You reach the kitchens as the scent of salt and oil thickens in the air. Not sea salt, kitchen salt, thick and clumped and half wet. The cook nods to you. He never asks what you came for. You take 2 covered bowls. He hands them to you without words. Your feet know where to go next. Up 2 flights. Past the guards who nod but do not see you. Through the narrow door, left slightly ajar. Into the chamber with the marble floor and the view of the city's throat. This is where they eat. Not the queen, not today, but the ones who speak on her behalf. Advisors, interpreters, the long-titled ones. You place the bowls gently. Steam curls into the silence. No one thanks you. One man looks at the city through the open screen and mutters, "Still burning." Another sighs, "Too many ships. Not enough ash." You do not respond. They speak in common tongue now, loudly, as if forgetting the servant is still in the room. One of them laughs, sharp and soft. The masters think the sea protects them. The other shrugs. Let them keep thinking. Until the sky comes down. You gather the lids, bow slightly, and retreat. The doors close behind you. The sound echoes. You breathe out, slowly, and then walk again. The day is far from over. The hallway behind the council chamber smells like warm stone and old wine. Not spilled wine, not fresh. The kind that lingers in corners, soaked into clay walls, long after the goblets have been polished and forgotten. It mixes with the scent of parchment and wax, of rotting fruit hidden beneath rugs, of incense burnt half-heartedly by someone hoping to impress someone more important. You walk slowly now. Not because you are tired, but because the air moves differently. It feels thicker, like the halls are breathing slower than they did an hour ago. Like the pyramid is trying to listen to itself. You pass a narrow slat in the wall, one of the 1,000 invisible windows that servants are taught not to look through. But your head turns anyway. Below, the city shifts. Not quickly. Meereen is not a city that panics all at once. It worries in layers. The harbor is coated in smoke now, and the plume climbs upward like a second spine behind the city. But the streets still function. Vendors still yell, though more quietly. Cloth still flutters from stalls, even if no one stops to touch it. The river still runs, though slower, as if it too watches the sky. From here, you see a man carrying a wooden cage, something alive flapping inside. Not a bird, not quite. His pace is deliberate, and the cage rattles in rhythm with his breath. 3 boys run past him, shirtless, barefoot, laughing at something that happened a street ago. At the corner, a pair of women hang wet cloth from the second-story balcony. Red fabric, long, flowing. You can't tell if it's for drying or for signaling. Maybe both. You turn away before the guards see you staring. The laundry corridor is narrow and constantly wet. Not with clean water, but the kind that leaks from overfilled basins or spills from tired hands. The walls here are lined with buckets, rags, soapstones worn down to coins. You pass a girl wringing out a cloth with both elbows locked. She doesn't look up, but says softly, "It's louder today." You say nothing, but you both know what she means. Past her, someone is coughing. Not once, not violently, just a quiet, repeated rhythm like a broom brushing stone. You glance into the room and see an old man seated on a stool, peeling an onion with his eyes closed. No knife, just his hands. You think he might have been a healer once, or a butcher, or no one. In the next room, they're singing. 3 voices. High, soft, slow. A language you don't know, a rhythm you feel anyway. It drifts into the corridor like smoke. You pause. You always pause here. Not to listen, but to notice that someone still finds something to sing about. The further you walk, the more you begin to forget why you started walking at all. That's the nature of the pyramid. Its purpose is motion. Its soul is repetition. You reach the base of the old stairs, the ones beneath the stables, where the stone sweats even when the city dries. There's a small bench there, hidden between the barrels of grain, and the wall that bows slightly inward. Earthquake damage, someone said once. You sit, it creaks, but nothing falls. You let the tray rest across your lap, empty bowls cold against your thighs. And for a moment, you allow your eyes to close, not in sleep, but in stillness. The air hums. From deep below, you feel a low rumble. Not loud, not dangerous, just the kind of sound the world makes when it's thinking. And above, faintly, the echo of wings. The bench beneath you no longer creaks. Either it has grown used to your weight, or you have grown into it. Your legs ache, not from strain, but from stillness, that quiet burn of being held in one shape too long. You rise slowly, lifting the tray without thought, and step back into the movement of the pyramid, because the pyramid never truly stops. It doesn't rush, doesn't halt, but sways from moment to moment, like a pendulum made of stone and memory. Your path curves through a section of the complex that few ever notice, a storage level where broken objects go to be forgotten politely. Bowls with cracks, banners with faded thread, a statue of a faceless god missing both arms and the top of its head. Dust here doesn't lie still. It gathers, it clings, it settles like ash. You do not sneeze. You learned long ago how to breathe without disturbing the air. You place the tray on the designated shelf, third from the bottom, right side. An unspoken rule, passed down not in words, but in glances, frowns, and the careful nudging of elbows. You do not need to be told what happens if you put it on the wrong shelf. Past the storage arch, a shaft of light cuts through the gloom. It strikes a pile of green glass bottles, once used for celebratory wine. Some are intact, most are not. Their shards glint like teeth. In the corner, someone has drawn a circle in the dust with a finger. Just a circle. No meaning, or too many. You turn down the outer corridor again, where the sound of the city bleeds faintly into the stone. Today, it brings music. Drums far off. No rhythm of war. Just hands on stretched skin, calling through alleys for attention, or joy, or memory. You can't tell which. Sometimes even silence is more honest than music in this city. At the corner near the western vent, you pause. This is your favorite place, not because it's beautiful, or quiet, or safe, but because from here, you can see the sun strike the bronze eagle atop the merchant's dome. Just at this hour, just for a breath. The light hits the metal and flares like fire from a god's eye. You don't believe in gods, but you believe in moments. Two boys run past behind you, barefoot. One shouts something about sweet fruit. The other just laughs. They sound like they've never known a whip, or a wall, or a name that wasn't their own. Further down, the air is cooler. Someone has opened a corridor vent, and the sea has found a path inward. It doesn't smell clean, no sea ever truly does, but it smells distant, wide, like it's coming from somewhere that doesn't know your name and wouldn't ask for it. You pass a woman sharpening a pin against a brick. She nods once. You've never heard her speak. Some say she was a dancer before the city changed hands. Others say she's never danced, just watches feet to know when to move. You don't ask. You only nod back. Beyond her, the wall bears carvings you didn't notice before. Long lines traced by a dull blade. Not letters, not images. Just motion left behind by someone who needed to leave a mark without asking permission. One of the guards leans near the armory door, half asleep, eyes open only enough to remind you that he's pretending to be alert. His spear rests against the wall, held loosely by two fingers. You wonder if he remembers the war, or if he just inherited the uniform. You reach the upper passage again. The wind shifts slightly, warmer now. The ash is in it again. Barely, like the memory of fire, not its presence. You don't ask where it's coming from. You just keep walking. The staircase curves upward, narrow and uneven. Not part of the grand layout. This one was carved later, you were told, when the Queen's advisors needed faster paths between chambers. The walls here are smooth but close, like the inside of a throat. The stone is warmer now, from torches, from footsteps, from breath. You move slower, not out of caution, but to hear better. There's a voice ahead, low, quick, pointed like a blade that's been dulled from overuse. You know it before you round the corner. Tyrion. You stop just short of the landing. You are not hiding. You are not spying. You are pausing, tray in hand, foot against stone, mind against silence. The other voice is quieter, smoother, clipped in its rhythm. Missandei. Her words fold like silk, even when sharp. If they attack again, the people will scatter. They always scatter, Tyrion replies. The difference is whether they come back. A pause, and Missandei again, softer. You sound tired. I am tired of fire, of banners, of convincing the powerful not to be clever, and the clever not to pretend they're powerful. You do not breathe. You should sleep, she says. I'll sleep when she does. They walk past the archway. You turn your face just enough to glimpse them. Tyrion's shoulders slouched, his hands stained with ink. Missandei walking beside him, like a shadow that has its own thoughts. They don't see you. You step back into motion once they pass. Not rushed, just invisible again. The corridor ahead leads to the secondary receiving room, less formal, but closer to the tower's outer edge. You bring water there sometimes. You clean the bowls when guests leave too much meat behind. You've never spoken to anyone in that room, but you've memorized its pattern. 3 tapestries, 2 pillars, 1 view of the bay. Today, the door is ajar. Inside, 2 guards talk in low voices, not official, not disciplined. The kind of voices people use when they think no one important is listening. She won't burn the city, one says. She burned Estaper, the other replies. That was war. This is a lesson. A lesson for who? A pause. Then, for everyone. You walk past without looking at them. One glances your way, but says nothing. You descend to the courtyard level next, where the wind blows stronger through the arches. Sand piles in corners here, windborne, reddish, fine. The city smells stronger at this level. You can taste the metal in the air, not from coins, from chains long buried and smoke newly born. Near the outer cistern, 2 women hang laundry in silence. One hums, the other does not. You pass without a word, but their eyes follow you, not with suspicion, with the weariness of those who had outlived too many flags. Someone once told you that the queen never smiles when she lands, that when she returns from flight, she speaks only in commands, that she walks the halls without shoes, so the floor can remember her heat. You don't believe all of it, but still, you look down at the stone beneath your feet. Warm. And outside, the wind shifts again. The light fades slower in Meereen than in other cities. The sun doesn't disappear. It smears itself across the stone for a long while, dripping between walls, painting everything with the dull gold of waiting. It's the hour when people stop pretending not to watch the sky, when conversations slow, eyes lift, and the whole city leans just slightly toward the sea. You move through the eastern gallery with a jug of water balanced on one hip. It isn't part of your usual duties, but the girl who tends this wing hasn't returned since morning. No one asked where she went. No one does. The stones here are older, scored with marks that aren't decorative but functional. Grip lines, seating grooves, chipped edges. These corridors were made for war and adapted for ritual. Now they're used for silence. As you pass the high window, you catch the harbor again. Less flame now, more smoke. A thick, layered haze that makes the horizon look like memory instead of distance. And in the middle of it, like the eye of a beast, 3 dark shapes circle slow. You stop just for a breath. Dragon, Azirian, Rhaegal. The way they fly is not like birds. It's slower, heavier, as if the air protests with each wing beat. They aren't hunting. They're watching, reminding, owning the sky. A group of foreign soldiers below points upward. Not the unsullied. These are newer. Brown-skinned, wide-shouldered, their armor mismatched, voices sharp and percussive. You've heard them speak of slaver cities with spit in their throats. Some say they followed the queen from beyond the sea. Others say they were paid. You think both may be true. One of them points at the dragons and laughs, not in mockery, but in the stunned, uncertain way a man laughs when he realizes myth is heavier than metal. His companion slaps his shoulder and mutters something about not drawing their eyes. You pass them by. Inside the inner hall, the smell changes. Less oil, more blood. Not fresh, not violence, just the scent of men preparing for something that hasn't yet begun, but already weighs on their muscles. Armor clinks, leathers creak. Fingers trace the edges of blades they haven't had to use in days. You deliver the jug to the resting alcove near the watchstairs. The guard there thanks you with a nod. You've seen him before. Not tall, not strong, but the kind of quiet that feels permanent. He once let you sit when your ankle was bruised. You never spoke. As you turn to leave, a voice hisses low from the shadows beside the pillar. She's choosing. You pause. She'll pick one of them soon. The one with the ships or the one with the eyes. You glance sideways. Two men sit in the gloom, half hidden, cloaks drawn. One chews on something dry. The other stares at the floor. Or neither, the first adds. Maybe she burns both and rules alone. The second man scoffs. She doesn't need a king. She has wings. You move on before they notice you listening. Not out of fear, out of instinct. Down the southern corridor, old women tend to lamps. They pour oil with steady hands, muttering to themselves about flame and shadow. One of them always touches each lamp after lighting it, a soft palm press, like asking it to remember who lit it. You reach the servant hall before sunset. The long bench is half filled. People eat quietly, not out of reverence, but because the taste of food feels strange when the sky growls. You sit, receive your portion. Thin stew, flatbread, a slice of dried fig. The man beside you breaks his bread in half and offers you the larger piece. You nod. No words. No thanks. The way things are shared when everything else feels like it might shift again. From the other end of the table, someone says, "She came back on fire once. Her hair didn't burn." No one corrects him. No one needs to. The spoon in your hand is warm. The bread rough. The sky outside deepens into bronze. And the air always carries the sound of wings. You finish your meal in silence. The fig clings to your teeth, sweet and stubborn. The stew coats your throat like old clay. You don't mind. You've eaten worse. You've eaten nothing. Memory is its own kind of hunger. As the others rise and drift off, some to corners for rest, some to waiting orders, you remain seated a while longer. The servant hall hums with the kind of quiet that's not truly silent. Footsteps, cloth shifting. A deep cough echoing from someone old enough not to care how loud it is. Familiar sounds. Domestic ones. The kind of sounds that once meant safety, before they started sounding like delay. A girl across the room speaks softly to a boy, her hands wrapped around a half-empty cup. "She said the fire doesn't listen," she whispers. "Who said?" the boy asks. She hesitates, then shrugs. "Someone who heard her. I don't know." You don't ask. You never do. That's how these walls work. Words are not stories. They are warmth. Not truth, but company. You rise, stretch your back until it pops, and head toward the upper tiers. The stairs here are steeper, narrower. They weren't meant for servants, but someone carved handholds into the wall long ago, and now they are yours. The upper halls are emptier after dusk. Most of the noble guests remain in the lower chambers or courtyards. The queen does not dine publicly these days. Some say she eats only once a day. Others say dragons' feet are better than food. At the edge of the eastern tower, there's a balcony the size of a tent flap, barely enough for one person to stand. It looks out over the city's heart, the square where chains once clattered, where coins once rang like war drums. Now it's quieter. Torches burn low. A few men gather around a barrel, speaking in harsh accents. One points toward the harbor. Another smokes something sharp. Behind them, past the broken gate, the bay waits. The ships are still there, long shadows against dark water. Some foreign, some stolen, some promised. From this high, they look peaceful. You lean your forearms on the warm stone rail and breathe. The air here is different, touched by salt, lifted by altitude. For a moment, it carries no ash. Then, somewhere far off, a low roar ripples through the sky. Not thunder, not a storm. A sound born of lungs too vast for any beast the world once knew. The balcony vibrates under your elbows. The ships below remain still, but the men raise their heads. One of them steps backward. The roar fades, but its shape remains in your ribs. You turn back inside. There are things still to carry, floors still to sweep, trays still to polish. You are a servant. But tonight, the pyramid watches you as much as you watch it. and in the corners of its shadowed heart, the air whispers. They are coming. Night does not fall over Meereen. It seeps. Like water through stone, like age into joints. The light doesn't vanish. It dims, stubborn and slow, clinging to the last corners as though unwilling to surrender. The flames in the sconces flicker more now. Footsteps lose their shape. Sounds grow softer, swallowed by stone. You're back in the eastern wing. The shadows here are longer than elsewhere. The air smells of damp rock, tired metal, and something heavier, like honey left too long in a sealed jar. The scent of time. The smell of rooms where no one has asked who entered in too many days. You check another jug. The water inside is warm, slightly sour. You pour it into the stone basin and listen as it vanishes drop by drop into some shaft below, the sound echoing like the pyramid is drinking. Another servant comes from the northern halls. You know him, tall, silent, with always clean hands and eyes that never land on anything for long. He nods. You nod back. No words. Not here. Not anymore. He whispers as he passes. She hasn't eaten today. You don't answer. You carry the empty jug back to the storage niche, where baskets sit untouched, where dust settles in perfect silence, as though it has never known movement. In a side chamber, you glimpse the woman who once sang lullabies to the children of the freedmen. Now she just sits, a half-eaten piece of bread in front of her, nothing in her hands. In her eyes, waiting, but not for you. You walk past. You begin to feel as though the pyramid itself is waiting, not for a command, not for a battle, but for the silence that comes after, the silence that remains when all is finished, when ash settles, blood dries, and even dragons no longer speak. On the stairs, you hear laughter. High, quiet, a child's laugh. You freeze. Turn your head. A boy stands in the archway, barefoot, ragged, eyes the color of salt. He looks at you and smiles, says nothing, just lifts a hand and points upward, toward the staircase. Up, where the air grows warmer, where the throne room waits. You nod. Not to him, not to yourself, just to the knowing. He's gone when you blink. As if he wasn't there, you keep walking. And now, each step hums in your chest. Not because you're afraid, but because it's close. You take the long way to the upper levels, not because it is safer, not because it is shorter, but because it gives you more time. The walls shift from sand-washed beige to a deeper bronze as you ascend. Not in color, in feeling. The stone here holds heat longer, and memory even longer still. You can smell it, the perfume of scorched banners, of open scrolls, of dust disturbed by footsteps that matter. You pass no one for a while. Only the sound of your own breathing, and something else. A rumble. Not loud, not near. A deep, coiled sound in the bones of the pyramid. It comes and goes, like a beast dreaming beneath the floor. You do not speak of it. No one does. But everyone hears it, and everyone knows what it means. You reach the top passage and place your hand on the wood of the final door. It is warm, not from sun, but from something deeper, older. Heat that breathes without fire. You press lightly, and it opens inward with a sigh. The antechamber is lit with oil lamps, steady, disciplined flames held in iron mouths. The scent is thick, but not unpleasant. A mixture of lavender, sweat, and parchment. The space feels held, not sacred, but aware. You step through it. Voices drift in from beyond the next wall. Low, calm, measured like stone laid for a tomb. One of them is Grey Worm. His voice does not rise. It is always the same, like steel smoothed by cloth. Another voice answers. A woman's, Mizande likely. Or perhaps one of the other councilwomen. You cannot tell yet. Then another. deeper, wearier. Tyrion. You remain where you are, silent, breath-controlled, movements invisible. The voices speak of patrol routes, of missing scouts, of unrest in the outer districts. All facts, all friction. Then, a pause. No one speaks. A sound follows. Thud. Not close, not far, but heavy. The kind of sound you do not mistake for anything human. You step back into the wall's shadow and lift your eyes to the narrow slit window near the ceiling. Through it, you see sky. And through that sky, black wings. Not one, 3. Circling low and slow over the city's edge. Dragon, Viserion, Rhaegal. You feel it again in your ribs. A vibration, a suggestion of size too great for sense. The sound of wings that displace more than air. They displace certainty. You step away from the window, and as you turn, you hear it. A footstep, soft, closer. You bow your head immediately. Not from fear, from knowing. Her boots make almost no sound on the stone, but the air shifts when she enters a room. It tightens, and the warmth changes. She does not speak to you. She doesn't need to. You glimpse only the edge of her cloak as she passes. White, lined with crimson. You remain frozen until the sound of her steps vanishes into the next room. Only then do you breathe again. You remain in the quiet archway for some time, listening to the space behind you breathe. The air carries no sound now, only presence, heavy, quiet, sovereign. You do not look back toward the queen. You know the rules. Servants who see too much do not speak of it, and servants who speak of it are never seen again. Not because she is cruel, but because the weight of her presence must be carried, not named. A throne room is not large, not like the ones in Westeros, built for parade and intimidation. This one is carved, angled, a triangle of light and stone. The high seat is not gold, not Baroque. It is shaped from blackened metal, salvaged from the pyramid's old frame, fused in heat and hammered into shape by foreign hands. It does not shine. It waits. You see her from the side, seated now, one leg crossed under the other, one arm resting against the cold surface. She is still, not like a statue, but like a blade laid flat across a table, tense in its rest, terrible in its calm. Her hair falls loose today, unbraided, draped across the shoulder like something grown rather than styled. Her face is unreadable, not blank, just finished. At her right stands Missandei, back straight, hands clasped. Her eyes flicker once toward you, and that is your signal to leave. You walk back down the corridor slowly, careful not to disturb the stone. You feel as if the pyramid is listening now, not with ears, but with memory. It records everything, steps, words, glances, doubts, the way it once recorded chains and collars and screams. Now it records stillness, and something that feels more dangerous than rage. At the foot of the stairs, a group of servants waits. You recognize some, others are newer. All of them look toward the windows, where the fading light of morning glows against the city's outer ring. Beyond the walls, ships rest like teeth in the water. Hundreds of them, foreign, patient. One of the older servants, a woman with white scars on her knuckles, murmurs, "They'll test her, like they all do." Another replies, "Let them." A third, "She won't bend." No one argues. No one has to. The wind outside changes direction. The smoke over the bay shifts like a warning. From high above, a roar cuts across the sky. Lower this time, closer. You feel it in your chest before you hear it in your ears. One of the younger boys stares upward and whispers, "They're back," but no one says who. They don't have to. You return to the servant quarters before the first bell. The hall is quiet now. Most have gone to their assigned paths, to the kitchens, the stables, the barracks. The endless corridors where dust must be moved from one place to another so that no one remembers it existed. You find your alcove, fold the cloth from your shoulder, and begin the morning duties. The tray must be cleaned, the copper pitcher polished. A small chip on the rim is rubbed smooth with ash. You've learned that ash works better than water for the fine things. You never say this aloud. Secrets are safer when they stay beneath the fingernails. The linen baskets are half full. You sort them by instinct. The queen's garments separated from her advisors. Towels for the unsullied, sorted from those used by the scribes. Some carry bloodstains, some ink. You never ask which is worse. You only scrub. The water today is cooler than usual. The basin had been left uncovered, and the night air touched it. As you rinse the cloth, your fingers ache. It's a grounding pain. You welcome it. It tells you you're still here, still flesh, still below the clouds and fire. From the window slit, you hear distant shouts, not screams, not panic, but something sharper, urgent. A language you don't speak. The soldiers from North or Astaper, perhaps. They speak with their whole throats, like the words have weight. You finish scrubbing, wring the cloth with both hands, and carry the linen to the drying rack in the stone corridor. The hall smells of citrus and mold, always both, no matter how many herbs are scattered near the vents. As you pin the fabric to the line, a shadow crosses the wall behind you. Not a person. Wings. They're flying closer today. You turn your head slowly, cautiously, and through the slotted stone you see it, Dragon, black as a closed gate, gliding across the city. Below him, the square is mostly empty. No one moves when he passes. It is not fear. It is ritual. You watch him vanish behind the higher tier of the pyramid, then return to your work. The cloth is slipping. The pin won't stay. You adjust it, gently, carefully, your fingers trembling just a little, not from fear, but from the echo of his presence in your lungs. Down the corridor, two younger servants walk past, whispering fast and low. They say the masters are gathering again, one says. In the east, with ships. The other shakes her head. Let them try. You finish hanging the last towel. Turn, stretch your back until your spine clicks. And then return to the hall, where no one waits for you, but where you must be anyway. The afternoon comes slow, dragging heat and stillness with it. You feel it first in your breath, thicker, harder to pull. Then in your steps. Even the stone beneath your sandals feels heavier, as if the pyramid itself is sinking. You make your way through the east corridor, delivering towels and gathering cups left on benches, each one holding the dried rim of someone else's mouth. You do not flinch. That is the job. Outside the northern windows, the harbor glows in that copper hue that comes before the sun turns cruel. The water reflects nothing. It never does this close to war. You are sent to the main terrace, the one where guards gather before their shift. It's not your favorite path, too open, too watched. The unsullied never speak unless addressed, but their eyes follow, not with suspicion, with precision. You envy that. One of them, taller than the others, nods as you pass. You don't know his name. You call him Shoulder Scar in your mind. He carries a nick across his collarbone like a signature. He never looks tired. He never looks anything. You refill the basin at the terrace edge, where vines from the old gardens have started creeping up through the cracks in the wall. No one tends them anymore. Green in this city is a guest, not a citizen. Still, they cling, stubborn, wrong-colored things. As you pour the water, you catch the scent of oil and burning rope. You know that smell. You lean forward and glance over the terrace rail. Down in the harbor, a single boat burns, small, a fishing skiff maybe, or a decoy. Flames curl from its deck, like fingers beckoning skyward. No alarm has been raised, no horn sound. This is not an attack. This is a warning. Behind you, A soft voice speaks. Don't look too long. Fire remembers who stares. You turn. Missandei stands in the shadow of the arch, not dressed for council, not guarded. Her expression is calm, but her eyes are locked on the smoke. You lower your head, not in deference, but because you don't know what else to do. She steps forward, takes the pitcher from your hands, and says, "The Queen will call soon." You nod once, she nods back, and then she's gone, her steps silent against the stone. You look once more toward the harbor, and return inside, gripping the edge of your tunic tighter than before. The fire has gone out, but the heat remains, and in it, something new, something like waiting, but heavier. You spend the next hour beneath the pyramid, in the long, narrow chamber where the washing stones are kept. The ceiling here is low, the air humid with the breath of boiled fabric and scraped skin. You kneel on rough stone, working at a cloak that smells of ash and oil, and as you rub the heavy cloth against the basin's edge, your shoulders ache. The muscles complain, but you welcome the feeling. It distracts from the hum in your chest. That quiet vibration. It hasn't gone away. Others are here with you, 6 or 7, each locked into their rhythm. One beats linen flat with a smooth mallet. Another picks at hardened seams with a bone hook. A third just stares into her bucket, unmoving. No one speaks unless they must. Voices break the air, and air is all you have to breathe. Above you, footsteps echo through the inner walls. Heavy ones, not soldier boots, not council shoes. Something slower, purposeful. Guards escorting someone or preparing. The sound fades quickly, but not before leaving a trail behind it, like a mark in warm wax. You wring out the cloak and move to the hanging lines. As you clip the soaked fabric, your eye catches movement just past the open slot in the stone. A flock of birds rises, not far from the outer wall. At first, they flap and scatter like always, but then they shift, turn sharply, flee, as if something larger had moved below them. Someone near you mutters, "Another skiff burned." Someone else replies, "That was no skiff. That was a signal." You say nothing. You gather the rest of the garments, fold what is dry, and begin the trek back to the upper levels. The basket presses into your hip with each step. The cloth is damp and warm against your side. Outside, the city hums, too quiet, too tense, like an audience before a performance no one asked to attend. As you pass through the stairwell near the council chamber, a group of scribes hurries past, robes fluttering, ink still drying on their scrolls. One drops a sheet. You pause, pick it up. It's in Valyrian. You can't read it, but the seal is unmistakable. The 3-headed dragon stamped in crimson wax. The paper smells of sweat, fresh. You slip it onto the nearest ledge. No one notices. You move on. In the hallway outside the Queen's personal quarters, a new tapestry has been hung. You've never seen it before. Black cloth, gold thread, the outline of a dragon curled around a broken chain. A symbol of freedom, they say. A warning, they whisper. A girl near the tapestry speaks to no one in particular. She's not a queen like theirs. She doesn't wear fear. She feeds it to the sky. You reach the servants' staging room and deposit your load. There's a platter to polish, a flagon to refill, and a pile of unused herbs to sort. Mint, sage, bitterroot. Each one has its place. Each one has its weight. You sort them by smell, by feel, by memory. Behind you, bells toll, not city bells. Pyramid bells. 3, then 2, then silence. You pause, your hands mid-motion. That pattern hasn't rung in weeks. It means preparation. Not for guests. Not for feasts. For war. You breathe in through your nose, sage, copper, steam, and hold it there. The scent burns a little. Good. It means you haven't gone dull yet. Somewhere high above, a dragon screeches. Not in rage, not in hunger, but in readiness. The sound rolls across the ceiling like thunder tied in iron. You set the herbs aside and stand. The pyramid has shifted again, and this time it waits for fire. The light outside fades by increments too small to notice, yet the halls grow dim all the same. You move through them slower now, not from fatigue, but instinct. The air carries a tension you felt before, not sharp like battle, but heavy like a breath held too long. No one speaks loudly, no doors slam. Every servant, every guard, every dog in the lower corridors moves with a silence that isn't taught, but absorbed, as if the stone itself instructed them. You're sent to the kitchens next, not for food, but for heat. The queen has requested warmed water and a basin of lemon-steeped cloths for her hands. You find the copper basin where it always sits, dented from years of use, but polished well enough to reflect the arch of your brow. The cook, a wide man with arms like hanging pigs, says nothing as he pours the boiled water into the basin, squeezing lemon wedges in with slow, brutal hands. You nod. He nods. That is enough. You carry it carefully through the halls. The warmth rises into your face, fogging your vision just slightly, enough to make the stone around you ripple. Not truly, but enough to make you question what was always solid. The air smells of citrus and copper. You wonder, as you always do, if she notices these details, the way the heat lingers near the rim, how the scent rises when the cloth is unfolded. As you near the chamber, a group of unsullied parts to let you through. They do not speak. They do not move more than necessary. Their spears are lowered, but not relaxed. The tension is not in their bodies, but in their waiting. Their stillness is not passive. It is the stillness of coiled wire. Inside, the queen stands beside the open window slit. The evening sun cuts across her cheek, turning the silver of her hair into fire. She does not turn when you enter. You kneel, offer the basin. Her hand lifts, slow, measured, and takes the cloth without a word. You retreat before she speaks. But as you step back toward the door, she says softly, not to you, not even to the room. Tomorrow, they will choose fire. The words land like dust, soft, but settling everywhere. You bow lower. You don't ask who they are. You already know. You return the empty basin, clean it, and return it again to its shelf in the storeroom. Each movement careful, deliberate, necessary. Behind you, someone is sweeping, not because the floor needs it, but because the motion fills the silence. From the open colonnade, you see fires burning along the horizon. Small ones now, signals, responses, a chessboard being set from across the sea. In the mess hall, a few servants eat quietly. No one laughs. No one drinks more than water. You join them briefly, chewing dried fruit and hard bread. The meal is not nourishment. It is ritual. Something to hold your place in the world while it shifts around you. Someone says, the ships were seen again. Closer this time, another. The harpies are gathering. A third. They don't understand who she is. You eat in silence. Because you do. You've seen her in the mornings, when her hands are trembling from memory. You've seen her in the evenings, when her gaze burns so bright that even the walls feel it. You've seen the dragons circle low, not because they were told, but because they too feel what is coming. Later, in your alcove, you wash your hands in cold water and scrape the dirt from under your nails. You wipe your face with a dry cloth. You lie on the thin mat. But you do not sleep. No one does. Not tonight. Because fire does not sleep, and neither does the city that waits for it. You awaken not from sleep, but from the shift in the air. A pressure, faint at first, like the city has paused between two breaths. The corridor outside your quarters is already moving. Not in panic. Not yet, but faster than usual. Steps that do not echo like routine. Voices that do not carry gossip, but wait. You step into the hall, barefoot, tunics still creased, and follow the current of movement. No one speaks to you. No one needs to. You see it in their eyes, not fear, but certainty. Something long predicted has arrived. At the upper terrace, the guards have doubled. Unsullied stand in formation, but they do not face inward. They look out. Toward the sea, you climb the narrow stair that leads to the overlook where the older servants gather. The air up here is thinner, sharper. You push between shoulders, ignore the grumbles. And then you see it. The ships. Dozens, no more. Lined like ribs across the mouth of the bay. Some bear colors you do not recognize. Others you do. The flags of the slavers, the sigils of men who once called themselves rulers of flesh and coin. Their sails are angled with purpose, pointed like spears, and they do not drift. They march. The harbor waters are too calm, too dark, as if hiding what waits beneath. One of the old men beside you spits on the stone. Didn't believe they'd come. Fools, the lot of them. Another mutters, that many sails. Even her dragons will feel it. You do not respond. You cannot. Your mouth is dry. Your hands colder than they should be. Far below, in the city's outer ring, bells begin to toll, not in rhythm, but in warning. That uneven clang that means look, listen, prepare. The unsullied near the steps do not flinch, but they tighten their grips. To your right, a small boy climbs the ledge beside you, peers out, and whispers, "Why do they come? Don't they know this is hers?" No one answers, because it is not a question. It is a prayer, and prayers are for the gods. She is something else. The bells do not stop. They grow louder, not in volume, but in desperation. A sound not struck with order, but by hands that shake. Somewhere in the depths of the city, horns join the call. Long, deep blasts that echo through stone and chest alike. You feel it in your sternum, like the footstep of something immense approaching through fog. The guards begin to move, slowly, then faster. Their formations shift like breath held in discipline. Shields clatter against hips. Commands are given in short bursts, in tongues you cannot follow. But the tone says everything. This is not a drill. From your high vantage on the servant overlook, you watch as the harbor shifts. The enemy ships adjust course, their sails snapping, oars dipping. They've reached the outer range now, close enough for threat, but still too far for flame. The city watches in silence. No arrows are fired, no replies made. The pyramid holds its breath. Then sound. A whistle, high and strange. Not human. You glance toward the Queen's tower. It stands still. No banners raised, no signs given. Yet something has changed. Because the first strike comes not from the city, but from the ships. A flaming bolt cuts across the sky like a wound trailing smoke. It hits the stone wall near the old port arch and explodes in flame and dust. Screams rise. Not many, yet, but enough. You see people scatter like ants disturbed, dragging children, shouting names. Another bolt follows, then another. The enemy is not testing. They are beginning. Fires bloom on the edge of the market square. The outer buildings, mostly wood and tar, catch quickly. You smell it on the wind, pitch, oil, burnt silk. Somewhere, someone is already wailing. A sound not of pain, but of memory being destroyed. Servants around you begin to retreat. Some run, some freeze. One falls to his knees, clutching a necklace and mouthing words too quiet to catch. You stay still, not by courage, but because the sky has changed color. The clouds, once pale and streaked with salt, have begun to turn red, not from the sun, from below. You don't see them yet, but you hear it. The sound that lives between roar and thunder. Not close, not far, but rising. And with it, something ancient awakens in the stone beneath your feet. The second wave comes harder, not with arrows this time, but with stones, massive iron-tipped projectiles launched from mangonels on the ship decks. You see them rise like unnatural birds, wobbling against the sky before crashing into the lower ring of Meereen. One strikes the base of an old watchtower, and it does not explode. It pulverizes. Stone shatters into bodies. The tower slants, then collapses into itself like a dying breath. Dust chokes the streets. Screams echo deeper now. From the marketplace, people flood the inner paths, barefoot, bloodied, carrying sacks, pots, even cages. Anything not nailed down becomes a vessel of survival. You see a woman with a broken sandal running with a goat in her arms. A child holding 3 loaves of bread and nothing else. A man dragging another by the wrist, not pausing to check if he's still breathing. The gates to the pyramid are shut, but the doors at the base open again and again as city guards pull in the wounded, the scared, the loud. Inside, the pyramid begins to change. No longer silent, no longer regal. It hums with chaos. You see scribes dropping scrolls in favor of carrying bandages. Kitchen boys armed with knives. And above them all, on the highest balcony, the shadow of her silhouette. She hasn't moved. Not yet, but she watches. Behind her, the sky splits. Not with fire, not yet. With anticipation. You are ordered below to carry water, to clean wounds, to calm the shaking. But no one listens. Not really. Because they all feel it now. The ships keep firing. The bells keep ringing. The city breathes in fire and breathes out silence. And through that silence walks Grey Worm. He does not run. He does not shout. He moves with purpose. Through the courtyards, past the panic, flanked by his men. Their eyes do not blink. Their faces do not change. You see one of them touch the shoulder of a crying boy, not to soothe, but to remind him, move. Missandei appears next, robes tucked, steps fast. She speaks with 2 guards near the main stair, and though you can't hear her words, her hands move sharply, slicing air like declarations. She is not frightened. She is not even angry. She is ... focused, and that is more terrifying than rage. You stand at the basin, pouring water into copper bowls, when you hear the change. Not from outside, from above. A thud, then another. Footsteps? No. Wings. Massive, slow, deliberate. The pyramid shakes not from impact, but from pressure. Something has landed. The air tastes of stone and salt, and something older. Like a forge left burning underground. You look up, and the ceiling creaks. She is moving, the queen, and not alone. The city is unraveling, but not collapsing. Meereen does not fall easily. It bends, flexes, exhales through alleyways and smoke. The people below the pyramid know how to hide. They always have. Long before queens, before dragons, before banners. They learned which walls were thickest, which basements the fire couldn't find, which corridors wrapped back into themselves like coiled rope. This is not the city's first fire. But this fire feels different, hungrier. You are sent to the upper gallery, where wounded are being gathered. Not warriors, civilians. A woman with a shard of roof tile in her thigh. A boy burned along one side. An old man clutching a birdcage with nothing inside. You dab cloth into a basin gone pink with blood. You do not think. You do not speak. You only press. Rinse. Press again. From the balcony outside, the ships look closer now. Or perhaps larger. Their sails ripple with the symbols of chains, gold whips, coiled serpents. The masters have not hidden who they are. They come in arrogance, in confidence. The kind that only men with coin and cruelty can afford. Missandei appears once more, her voice rising in Valyrian, directing movements like a tide pulling through the chaos. You glimpse Tyrion behind her, hands clasped, face pale but still calculating. His mouth moves rapid and sharp, not panic, strategy. As if each death outside subtracts from a longer equation he must solve before dusk. A shout rises from below, not of pain, but of sight. Look, the sky! You rush to the window, weaving between bodies and crates of bandages and jars of poultice. Beyond the rooftops, a shadow moves. Not fast, not violent, but immense. It circles once, low above the harbor. Then a second shape follows, sleeker, with wings held closer to the body. Then a third. No fire yet. No roar. Just presence. The ships begin to stir. Their formations twitch. Sails shudder. A few turn slightly. Not away, but uncertain. The kind of movement men make when they realize they might not understand what they're facing. You step back from the window. The warmth in the pyramid changes. Not from fire, but from intention. Like the building knows. Like the very walls lean forward, waiting. Somewhere deep in the Queen's chambers, a door opens. Not with sound, with purpose. The ground below your feet does not shake, but your breath shortens. Because what rises now is not panic. It is decision. And it wears wings. The air does not tremble from sound. It remembers it. That's what it feels like, standing in the servant hall as they rise. Not thunder, not earthquake, but the echo of something too large for silence. The windows near you rattle in their frames. Dust trickles from ceiling edges. Birds take flight from the rooftops with no signal, just instinct. You step out into the upper courtyard, drawn by the pull no one dares name. You are not alone. Guards, scribes, cooks, everyone has stopped. Not out of duty, out of awe. Eyes turned skyward, hands still wet from blood or ink or oil. And then the shadow passes overhead. Not a shadow, a wall of shadow. Dragon. He blots out the sky in a single, unhurried sweep, his wings stretching from tower to tower. The wind he leaves in his wake nearly knocks a boy beside you to the floor. His eyes are wide, his jaw slack. No one scolds him. You don't even think he notices. Because above them all, the dragon doesn't descend. He waits. Rhaegal follows next, smaller, sharper, scales glinting green and gold where the light pierces the smoke. His flight is tighter, circling above the eastern pier. Below him, some of the enemy ships begin to shift again. You hear shouting now, not from the city, but from the water. Foreign voices. Commands yelled too late. The kind of panic that slips into the throat when the mind understands what the heart already knows. The sky belongs to someone else now. Viserion completes the trinity. Pale wings, ivory throat, eyes like liquid brass. He comes from the south, rising over the horizon as if summoned not by voice, but by memory. Memory of chains, of blood, of his mother's cries in the dust. He roars once, and it is not a scream. It is a promise. You grip the stone railing before you, and it feels suddenly warm. All three dragons hover now, silent, circling, their flight coordinated not by reins, not by shouts, but by bond. They do not act yet. They hover, watching. Above the Queen's balcony, the great black banner is raised. A single sigil. 3 dragons, red on black. No words, no warning. Just history, rising again. And then you see her, Daenerys Stormburn. Breaker of chains, mother of dragons. She does not shout. She lifts one hand and closes her fingers into a fist. Drogon tilts his head. And dives. Drogon doesn't fall from the sky. He claims it. His wings tuck inward just enough to form a spear, and he plunges with the grace of a god and the weight of something older than war. Below, the ships scream. You cannot hear the words, only the terror woven into them. They scatter, oars snapping, sails twisting, the helms jerking too late. But the sea is not their ally. The waters of Slaver's Bay do not part for cowards. The dragon hits the first galley amidships. There is no pause, no hesitation, just fire, sudden, white, and furious. It bursts not in a line but a wave, curling down the deck, turning men to silhouettes, then to ash, then to nothing. The ship does not explode. It melts. The mast curls, blackens, and collapses inward with a groan that sounds like mourning. And Drogon doesn't stop. He climbs again, wings ripping at the air, tail lashing once as he banks toward the next cluster of ships. Behind him, Rhaegal shrieks and follows, his fire a deeper, more emerald burn. He comes from the side, not a dive, but a sweep. His flames catch the rigging of two vessels at once, igniting sails like parchment, turning the sea below, golden with reflection. You watch from the stone ledge, knuckles white against the railing. Around you, no one speaks. Even the servants who screamed earlier now only watch, because this is not destruction. This is judgment. Viserion spirals in from above, more erratic, more furious. His flames burst in pulses, in sharp bursts, leaving trails of smoke that rise like columns. One ship, in trying to flee, veers into another, and both erupt together as fire catches the oil stores. The explosion cracks across the bay and echoes through the pyramid's bones. From the balcony above, Daenerys does not move. Her hair ripples in the heat wind. Her eyes never leave the sea. Tyrion stands just behind her, eyes narrowed, lips parted, caught between strategy and awe. You don't know what he sees? You only know what you feel. Warmth on your cheeks, salt in your mouth, and a sound, low, steady, endless, like a drum carved from sky and blood. The dragons are not roaring now. They are singing. And the city listens. By the time Drogon wheels again, half the harbor burns. But it is not chaos. It is choreography. The dragons move as if tethered by thought, not command. Drogon scorches the lead vessels in a perfect crescent, cutting off the advance. Rhaegal dives behind him, targeting the flanks. Viserion floats above the wreckage, like a vulture made of smoke and vengeance, finishing what the others begin. You've seen fire before. Hearths, torches, oil lamps tipped too far in a storm. This is not fire. This is memory awakened. Each ship destroyed carries more than soldiers. It carries arrogance, the belief that this city could be reclaimed, rechained, reshaped. But the dragons do not leave room for memory to rebuild, only to vanish. And as the ships splinter and fold inward, as wood becomes coal and coal becomes air, Meereen watches not in fear, but in silence, reverence. You stand behind a marble pillar now, eyes raw from the wind, lips dry from heat. The sky no longer holds clouds. It holds wings, smoke, and ash that rains down like slow snow. You catch a flake on your sleeve, black, curling, silent. Somewhere behind you, someone weeps. Not in horror, in release. A horn sounds, high, sharp, and foreign. The enemy is retreating. 3 ships try to turn, their sails half burnt, oars dipped awkwardly like broken limbs. They scramble toward the deeper sea, not in formation, not in pride, in desperation. But the dragons do not pursue. They hover, watching, letting the retreat be seen. This is not a battle. It is a sentence. From the balcony above, Daenerys lowers her hand, and for the first time, you see her breathe. Not like a queen who has conquered, like a woman who has remembered who she is. The flames die slower than they rose. The harbor steams. The bay reflects orange and gold, not from the sun, but from the burning hulls. A mast, still upright, leans forward and falls with a hiss into the water. The sound is final. The queen turns from the balcony. Her dragons follow. They do not land. They vanish upward, into the smoke, into the sky, into myth. And below, the city breathes out once, long, and for the first time in hours, you realize you are still alive, and everything is different now. Dragon circles wide, banking over the flames, his wings scattering embers across the city rooftops like sparks from a god's forge. You track him from the marble balcony, unable to blink. Each wing beat sounds like canvas ripping in heaven. His mouth opens again, and fire spills out in a long, purposeful torrent. Not wild, not chaotic, surgical. The kind of fire that speaks not of rage, but of will, of justice. Below, a ship attempts to angle itself behind the others. A coward's tactic. It tries to use the wreckage of its kin as cover. Dragon sees it, or perhaps he feels it. His path tightens, and his descent is sudden, vertical, terrifying. The fire doesn't strike the deck. It strikes the sea, turning water to steam, surrounding the hull in white death before it even burns. You hear nothing for a moment, just light, pure and devouring. To your right, the servants gasp, not from terror now, but awe. One of them kneels, whispering in a tongue you don't know. Another clutches the amulet around her neck and weeps openly. You do not mock them. You understand. Rhaegal veers lower. He doesn't strike the ships directly, not yet. He burns the water between them, forcing them to scatter, breaking their unity. The masters had come with precision, with naval geometry and rows of flagships. Rhaegal turns those angles into mistakes. One galley, pushed too far by the panic of its helmsman, slams broadside into another. The crash is dull but final. Seconds later, green fire floods across their decks, and their screens are swallowed in dragonlight. From the heart of the city, you hear music, not played, not sung. The sound of the people, chanting, not words, not slogans, just a rhythm, a beat, Daenerys, Daenerys, Daenerys. And it spreads, from alley to courtyard, from market to wall, as if the city, long held in the grip of men who counted chains as coins, now finds voice not through speeches, but through the flame. Viserion flies lower now. His arc is erratic, wings twitching from side to side. He does not sweep in elegant lines. He dives, jerks, twists. Some say he was always the wildest. You believe it now. He ignores the largest ships and targets the smaller ones, the support vessels, the supply carriers, the ships meant to linger back and flee if needed. There will be no fleeing. One boat explodes beneath his breath in a flare of white gold fire. You see the wood curl and split, its ribs exposed like bone. Men leap into the sea, clothes already smoking. The water does not save them. It only turns their screams into bubbles. Closer to the seawall, a massive war galley attempts a final stand. Archers line the rails, loosing volleys into the sky. They strike nothing. Rhaegal answers with a wall of flame that turns their arrows to ash mid-air. The dragon doesn't even dip. He soars overhead, majestic and merciless. The deck vanishes in flame. Then the masts, then the hull. And then the fire climbs. You feel the heat where you stand. The pyramid soaks it like a sunstone. The wall beside you grows warm, not uncomfortable, but ancient, like a hearth that's been dead for decades reigniting from memory. Daenerys steps forward, her eyes closed, her hands still, not commanding, listening, and the dragons hear her silence. Dragon returns, his wings billowing smoke with each beat. He makes no sound, just flame, and the harbor bows. Ship after ship folds inward. Wood groans, iron snaps. The sea hisses and retreats. The air is no longer air. It is ash and salt and firelight. The slavers do not shout now. They pray, but no god answers. Only her. By the end, there is no battle. Only memory. The sea is not blue. It is black and gold, churned with the remains of hulls, corpses, and floating embers. The air tastes like copper and soot. The city no longer screams. It watches. You are seated now, legs numb beneath you, hands folded in your lap like a child caught in temple silence. Around you, others have collapsed, not in fear, in reverence. It is not victory that presses on your chest. It is witnessing. One final ship tries to turn. Its sails are aflame, but it clings to movement, as if the mere act of retreat could undo what has happened. Drogon lands on it, not above, on it. The deck splinters beneath his claws. The ship leans, groans, begs, and then folds, snapping beneath his weight like dry bone. Drogon lifts his head and roars. A sound so deep, so total, it swallows the harbor. And then, just like that, silence. He beats his wings once, twice, and lifts. Rhaegal follows. Then Viserion. They do not circle. They do not celebrate. They rise into the darkening sky like returning stars. Below them, the city kneels. Even those who do not touch ground lower their heads. Even you. Because this was not war. This was judgment. And fire does not forget. The dragons vanish into cloud and smoke, their silhouettes swallowed by the sky like myths retreating into memory. But they leave no doubt behind, only silence, the kind that flattens even thought. You are still on your knees, your palms against warm stone. Around you, no one speaks, not the guards, not the servants, not even the children. The pyramid holds its breath. The city does too. The fires still burn, but the screaming has stopped. There is nothing left to shout. The masters are gone. The ships are gone. Only the scent remains, scorched wood, burnt gold, and a faint sweetness of cooked grain from some broken merchant barge. You rise slowly. The horizon smokes like a dying forge. Where once a fleet stood in perfect alignment, banners flying, prows raised like declarations, now floats only splinters and flame. The bay churns with black oil and burnt men. No survivors row away. No white flags wave from the wreckage. This was not conquest. This was warning. Inside the pyramid, the rhythm shifts. Servants begin to move again, this time not in fear, but in order. Bowls of water are carried up. Burned cloth is gathered for the healers. Someone fetches new silks for the queen. But all of it, every step, every whisper, is done slowly, as if speed might disrespect what just happened. You're told to help clear the floor of the main hall. Blood was tracked in from wounded earlier, and though no one bled in the throne chamber, it matters that it's clean now. You sweep ash from marble with hands that tremble, not from fear, but reverence. Above, her voice finally speaks. Not a speech, not a decree. One sentence, in Valyrian. Soft, but it shakes the bones of the chamber. Tell them, Meereen is free. You do not cheer. No one does. You simply understand. Later that night, after the fires have dimmed, and the streets have begun to whisper again, you sit outside the servants' quarters. The stone is still warm beneath you. Somewhere above, wings move again, not to destroy, just to watch. You do not know which dragon it is. You do not need to, because this night is carved into you now. And when the world changes tomorrow, when envoys arrive, when the rest of Essos hears what happened here, they will not know what it felt like. But you will, because you saw the sky open, and it looked back with fire. By morning, the smoke has become a ceiling, not thick, not choking, just settled. It clings to Meereen like a new roof, one that dimly filters sunlight and reminds everyone not to raise their voices. The city has not returned to life. It has not resumed. It has simply endured. You walk the outer hallways of the pyramid with a bucket and a damp cloth, wiping soot from the marble walls. It sticks like wax, greasy, familiar. It will take days to clean, they say. But no one complains. Not even the nobles in the upper rooms. Not even the butcher's boy with his bandaged hand. On the steps below, someone is planting candles, one for each ship burned. A small old woman in a shawl, the color of faded olives. You don't ask her who they're for. You just watch her light each one with the same matchstick. Out in the city, the markets are open again, but only barely. Half the stalls stand empty. The others offer dry bread, pickled fish, boiled beans. No spices, no music. Not today. No one haggles. People just pay, nod, and leave. The children are quiet. That is the strangest part. There are new drawings on the walls of the lower streets. Not words, not banners, just paint. Crude shapes. A dragon over a ship. A woman with white hair and 3 black beasts in a ring around her. Someone has painted the bay, black with smoke, yellow with fire, red with wreckage. You pass a boy with charcoal fingers and no shoes, crouched by a wall. He draws a new line across a broken mast. His mouth moves as he sketches, whispering something. You think he's praying, but when you lean closer, you hear, "She saw them coming." Even in silence, stories begin. You bring water to a healer station in the old armory. Inside, a woman lies with a broken leg, wrapped in linen stained brown. She asks for tea. You offer bread. She refuses both and says, "I watched the ships burn. I'll never eat fish again." You understand her. The sea tastes different now. At dusk, Dragon returns. Not to fight, to circle, just once. No fire, no roar. Just the shadow, falling across rooftops, towers, balconies. As if to say, "I remember where you are." Children gather in courtyards, pointing upward. Some cheer softly. Others only stare. One clutches a wooden carving, a dragon made from blackened driftwood, with 3 nails for teeth. He shows it to the guards and says, "He flew over me first." They let him say it. No one corrects him. Truth bends after fire. You walk the outer ring of the harbor, where the sea laps quietly at the broken piers. A few blackened beams still float offshore. You see men collecting them for firewood. A kind of poetry, maybe. Burning the remains of ships that came to burn you. One woman tosses flower petals into the water. For the dead? For the dragons? You don't ask. The city holds a feast. Not of celebration, of continuance. Oiled lentils, cabbage stew, flatbread, water with lemon peel. No trumpets, no music. Just eating, together, in near silence. The queen does not appear. Neither does Tyrion. But their absence feels right, as if their work is already present. No one needs speeches. The ship said everything. A blind man tells a group of children about the sound of the dragons. He says, "You think they roar, but what they really do is listen." The fire is just their answer. The children nod, not entirely understanding, but no one laughs. You eat beside a baker whose oven burned down yesterday. She lost 3 fingers, but she still offers you a heel of crust. You accept it without speaking. It tastes like heat and thanks. The next morning, the sea is calm. Not the city, the sea. For the first time since the battle, the horizon is clear. You can see the full line of the bay, the distant hills beyond Slaver's Point. The smoke is gone. Only its memory hangs in the warmth of stone, in the smell of cloth, in the voices that still lower themselves when speaking of her. You polish the floors of the pyramid, one tile at a time, each movement a ritual now. Not for her, for yourself, because you were here. You lived it. And though you were no knight, no general, no dragon rider, you saw. At noon, bells ring from the harbor tower. A new ship approaches, small, single-sailed, carrying envoys from the Staper. You do not know what they bring, but you know what waits for them. You look once more at the sky. It's empty now, but inside you, it burns still. The days that follow carry a quiet rhythm, like waves that forget how to crash. The harbor is mostly clear now. What couldn't sink was pulled out piece by piece. Burned masts, scorched oars, the metal spine of a wrecked warship dragged ashore like a sea beast. Some say is to be melted into statues. Others say nothing should be built from the bones of tyrants. For now, the wood dries in piles, and children are warned not to climb them. In the city square, traders begin to return, cautious, quiet. One sells dragon figurines carved from bone. Another sells scrolls that claim to describe what Tyrion said during the battle. You know he said nothing, but the scrolls sell anyway. You help carry water again, not to douse flames now, but to feed the new trees planted near the broken walls. Olive roots, fig sprouts. Symbolic, they say, fruit from ash, you're not sure. But when your fingers brush the warm soil, it feels ... ready. More names are spoken now, not the names of nobles, not of kings. The names of the dead, whispered at doorways, carved into clay, sung at night over candles. The city remembers its own. Those who drowned in the harbor, those who burned, those who fought beside the unsullied with nothing but kitchen knives and hammers. You hear one name again and again. Rasha, the girl who rang the eastern bell when the ships arrived. No one told her to. She simply saw and ran. Her body was found days later beneath a collapsed tower. Someone paints her on a wall. Not realistically, just a shape, a figure, standing with arms outstretched under a dragon's wings. No one touches the mural. Even the drunkards walk around it. At night, the city hums again, but different now. Fewer fights, more music. Not the loud kind, not yet. Gentle strings, soft pipes, drums beaten with open hands. In the servants' yard behind the pyramid, you sit with others around a low fire. Someone tells a joke. Another braids hair. You watch the stars. They feel closer now. Overhead, torches burn in even rows. No one patrols with fear. The guards still carry weapons, but they smile. One shares dried meat with you. He says nothing. You nod in thanks. That is enough. Inside the great hall, the queen has begun to meet with the freed, one by one. You're not allowed in, but you sweep the halls outside. Sometimes you hear voices. Not orders, not shouting, just listening. That's what the city is learning to do again. To listen. The pyramids are open now. Not fully, but symbolically. Children are allowed to walk the outer steps. Families bring bread and sit near the reflecting pools. Once, these places were only for the highborn. Now, the stone paths echo with bare feet and the soft slaps of sandals. No one stops them. You see a girl toss a coin into the pool and whisper something. You ask her what. She says, "So the dragons stay." You laugh, gently, but part of you wonders if they ever left. Farmers return from the edges of the city. Traders bring sacks of dates and barley. A man from Yonkai brings a letter of surrender and apology. He is not harmed. He is offered wine, not because he deserves it, but because the queen is not them. That, too, is part of the fire she left behind. You wake early now, not from duty, but habit. Something in your blood rises before the sun, like a whisper of wings still above. Your routine has returned. Washing floors, hauling crates, folding linens. But it feels different, lighter, not easier, lighter. As if the weight that once pressed into your spine has shifted, or been shared. In the southern market, someone sells bread shaped like dragon wings. In the bathhouse, a woman hums a song she swears was sung by Mizande herself. At night, people light small fires in their homes, not for warmth, for remembrance. Quiet blazes in iron bowls, watched not in silence, but in calm. And above it all, the sky remains open. No sails, no war, only space for wings. A week has passed. Not that time moves normally anymore. The city counts days in other ways now, not by sunrise, but by the smell of the harbor, the weight of the wind, the way silence bends around certain names. You no longer think in hours, only in before and after. Before the fire, after the breath. The ash has faded from the stone, washed away by careful hands and patient rain. But in the cracks, in the seams between bricks, in the wooden grooves of merchant carts, in the folds of robes still hanging from balconies, the scent remains. Not smoke, not death. Something subtler, a warmth without source, a memory made tactile. You catch it sometimes on your way to the courtyard, a dry, faint heat brushing your cheek like a hand that left hours ago. It makes you pause. You never speak of it, but you know others smell it too. You see it in the way they stop, just for a moment, and glance skyward. The pyramid feels different now, not heavier, not lighter, just awake, like a house that had been living in its own dreams and has finally opened its eyes. You move through the hallways with more certainty, not because your duties changed, but because your steps no longer ask permission. You belong here. Somehow, no one said it, but the air agrees. In the kitchens, bread is made with new care. The baker, once silent and sour, hums now as she needs. You ask what song it is. She says she doesn't know, only that it came to her in sleep, wrapped in firelight. You believe her. The unsullied still train. You hear them at dawn, their synchronized steps, the low bark of commands, the slam of spear butts into earth. But the rhythm is softer. They train not for war now, but for form, for memory. They sharpen muscle like priests polish statues, not to use, but to preserve. You watch sometimes from the tower stairs, sipping weak tea, wondering what it feels like to move with such precision when the danger is past. The queen remains distant, but present. She walks sometimes through the upper courtyard, not alone, always flanked by Grey Worm and Missandei, but she does not march. She walks, slowly, as if listening, not to advisors, to the stone beneath her feet. Once you caught her looking down at a growing crack in the wall near the reflecting pool. She stood there a long time, then knelt, touched it, as if deciding whether to leave it or mend it. She said nothing, but the next day, masons arrived. In the lower city, the alleys are cleaner, not just swept, tended. The children who once ran barefoot and filthy now carry buckets. They wipe shutters. They polish brass lanterns that haven't been lit in years. No one told them to. They just do it. You think they want the dragons to see, if ever they return. And sometimes they do. Not close, not loud. But there, in the distance, a shadow across the hill, a sudden warmth in the air, a silence too complete to be natural. The people don't cry out. They just look up, and then return to their day. In the bathhouse, old men speak of politics again, not loudly, but confidently. They discuss trade routes, peace terms, taxes, as if things can be stable now, as if planning has meaning again, as if the city has time. At night, from your cot in the servant's wing, you lie awake sometimes and think about the woman in white who broke the chains. You didn't see her do it. You were scrubbing blood from a hallway floor that day, but the stories reach you in pieces, whispers, fragments. You know only this. The fire didn't just burn the ships. It burned the silence. And in the space that silence left behind, something else began. Not freedom, not yet, but something shaped like breathing. And so you sleep with the windows open, in case they fly by again, in case they remember you, because you will never forget them. 2 weeks pass, and for the first time since the fire, people begin to forget what day it is. Not because they've stopped caring, but because there is nothing urgent to survive. The city is still cautious, still marked, but it is no longer bracing for the next scream. It listens now for the clatter of carts, the rustle of linen being folded, the scrape of spoons in bowls. The sound of life too small to be reported, but too steady to ignore. You wake just before dawn, as always. Your body knows when the light will arrive, even if the light itself has become softer since the smoke left the air. There's something golden in the mornings now, as if the sun was humbled, as if it too saw the dragons and decided to arrive more gently. The lower district has changed the most. The streets, once choked with refuse and old grief, are swept each morning by volunteers. No proclamation was made, no law passed. Just brooms, hands, and silence. Men who once fought in alleys now mend broken fountains. Women who once sold boiled rats now trade fruit. You see more children with shoes, more elders with shaded stools. Even the pigeons seem slower. At the corner of Narrowstone and Fifth, there is a new plaque, not bronze, just painted stone. A date, a name, and a phrase. She burned what could not be broken. You don't know who placed it there, but every time you pass, someone has left bread near its base, or wine, or a single feather. You spend your mornings now in the outer chambers, polishing the brass tiles that line the Queen's main stair. It's quiet work, circular, satisfying. Sometimes you catch glimpses of her descending, barefoot, always, speaking softly with Missandei, or walking alone with nothing in her hands but a folded letter. She walks slowly, eyes tracing the edges of stone, not the faces of those she passes, not out of pride, out of thought, as if the ground beneath her still tells stories, and she is still listening. You eat your meals with the same small circle. 2 stable boys, a woman who once stitched uniforms for the Yunkish army, and a boy who doesn't speak at all, but draws dragons with soot on the floor. You don't ask him why. No one does. He draws with reverence, as if remembering from inside a dream. Trade has resumed across the bay. Ships, smaller, friendlier, watched closely, anchor near the outer pier. They bring flour, salt, goats. One ship brought poets, paid well, dressed poorly, hungry for myth. They ask too many questions. You give them none of your truths. Let them write their versions. You remember what it really smelled like. One afternoon, a man collapses in the market square. No wound, no injury, just kneels, weeping. He says he served the masters, that he watched them die and felt nothing, that now he feels everything. No one punishes him, no one praises him. They give him water and space. That too is a kind of justice. The Queen no longer wears armor. She walks in cloth, in light colors, in silence, not as a symbol, as a citizen. And yet, no one mistakes her. You do not need fire to recognize heat. She passes you once near the stairs. Her eyes meet yours, not for long, but long enough to tell you she remembers. The dragons haven't returned in days. Some whisper they've flown to Valyria. Others say they circle only when needed. One boy swears he saw dragons sleeping atop the old slave tower. You don't argue. You simply nod, because the city lives not by knowing what's true, but by believing what it must. At night, you light your single candle near the cot. You look at the sky through a cracked stone window, and you whisper not as a prayer, but as a promise. Not again. Not back, forward, with fire in our bones and ash behind us. And then you sleep, because peace, finally, allows it. By the 3rd week, it is not the fires that remain, nor the ships, nor even the scars on the walls. It is the whispers. They move through Meereen like wind through silk curtains, soft, restless, never seen, but always felt. You hear them first thing in the morning, as you pass the inner courtyard to fetch water. 2 guards stand near the tiled arch, murmuring in low Valyrian. You understand only pieces names. Varys, High Garden, the Queen of Thorns. None of them live here. None of them matter to your broom. But still, you remember them. Rumors say the spider has sent ravens again, that he writes from shadow, but eats at Daenerys' table. Others say Tyrion has been meeting secretly with emissaries from Dorne. You do not know what Dorne is, only that it is far, and dry, and angry. They say the prince there lost someone to fire. But then again, didn't everyone? The Unsullied have changed their patrol routes. Subtle shifts. Streets that were once bare now echo with their steps. No explanation, just rhythm. Their eyes look ahead, but their ears listen behind. You carry a folded basket of laundry past them and feel the tension in the soles of their feet. It is not peace they expect. It is a test of it. Today, your hands smell of orange peel and copper. The laundry came from the upper chambers, soaked in wine, perfume, and blood. Not much, just enough to remind you that diplomacy has not replaced conflict, only dressed it differently. You overhear more at the kitchen dock. A merchant from Karth claims to have seen the second dragon. Not Dragon, the quiet one. Rhaegal. He says it flew over the salt fields, its wings stirring the air until the sand wept. A woman spat in his face for saying so. He flew to burn liars, she said. But no one laughed, because maybe he did. In the upper chamber, Tyrion passed through this morning. He didn't speak to the servants, but he dropped a lemon slice in his wine and whispered something to Missandei. You caught only 2 words, the north, and then he shook his head, not in doubt, in dread. You polish the floor where he stood. You feel the weight of that place long after he leaves. Outside the city, strange banners have been seen on the hills, green and white. No one knows the sigil. Some think it's a scouting party. Others say it's just a merchant fleet testing the Queen's new rule. But the guards now sleep with armor nearby, just in case. You walk the market at dusk. It smells like cumin, cured meat, burnt clay, old coins. A boy sings of dragons with gold eyes and mouths full of thunder. He holds out a tin bowl. You place a date inside. He's singing. At night, a fog rolls in from the sea. It doesn't smell of salt, but of stone and time and something older. The kind of air that makes even windows hold their breath. You lie in bed and think of her, not as queen, just as a woman with white hair who once looked at you and didn't look away. The fire changed the city, but her silence changed you. And somewhere above, though you cannot see it, a shadow passes the moon, large, slow, and watching. You close your eyes, and you wonder what it dreams of. 4 weeks. The city no longer counts in days. It counts in quiets. How many passed since the last scream, the last tremor in the ground, the last glimpse of black wings against the clouds? Peace, it seems, has a rhythm, and the people of Meereen have learned to dance to it with caution in their heels. But something has changed, not loudly, not visibly. A shift, like air just before a storm. It starts with the birds. Fewer of them near the walls. They fly higher now, faster, as if something unseen stirs beneath the stones, and even the smallest creatures can sense it. You notice it in the way the guards grip their spears when the queen passes. Not out of fear, but duty home to a blade. Their gazes no longer drift. Their boots land in perfect sync. And when they breathe, it's through the nose, quiet, measured, like men who know the silence will not last. Today, as you sweep the steps near the throne room, you see Grey Worm walk past with his head lowered, speaking only to 2 commanders. They carry scrolls bound in red wax. That color means war. You pretend not to notice, but you listen anyway. Ships, one says, not ours. Later, in the servants' hall, the rumors return. They never really left. One woman says the sons of the Harpy are regrouping in the east, gathering near the old catacombs. Another swears she heard them in the dead of night, whispers beneath the bathhouse floor. No proof, only dread. You visit the market before sundown. There's more meat today. A caravan from the hills brought salted lamb. Prices are low, too low. It smells like desperation. A man with a crooked spine tries to sell you charms. Bones dipped in ash, painted with symbols of the old gods. You shake your head. He smiles anyway. They'll want them soon, he says. In the pyramid's upper tower, a raven arrives from a staper. Its feathers are wet. Missandei reads the letter aloud in Valyrian. You don't understand the words, but the way her voice flattens near the end tells you enough. Outside, in the garden square, a group of children draw dragons in the dirt. Not flying, not burning, just sleeping, curled around pyramids, tucked behind towers. One child draws fire, then smears it away with his poem. You wonder if he's trying to forget or practice. At night, the queen stands at the highest terrace, alone, no guards, no council. Just her, the wind, and the sky. Her hair moves like the sails of distant ships, soft, slow, waiting for direction. You watch from a window below. You want to say something, anything, but you don't, because there's nothing to say, only to witness, only to prepare, because you feel it too. The air no longer rests on your skin. It presses. Something is coming, and this time it might not burn. It might bleed. You wake before the bell today, not from duty, from instinct, the kind that gnaws quietly at your ribs, whispering without words. Get up. The cot creaks differently. The floor feels colder. You wrap your sandals slower than usual, not because you are tired, but because you're listening. In the outer courtyard, the light is gray, not gold. The clouds hang too low over Meereen, as if they know something that people don't. You find the broom where you left it, but today your hands grip it like a weapon. Down in the barracks, the unsullied drill in silence. No chants, no cadence. Just movements, swift, sharp, quiet. The kind of practice done not for display, but for survival. You see Grey Worm watching. He doesn't blink. You pass the throne hall, closed, not unusual. But the guards posted today aren't the usual ones. Taller, older, eyes that don't shift. When you bow, they don't nod. When you walk away, you feel them still watching. At mid-morning, a tremor is felt. Faint, not an earthquake. Just a small vibration through the walls. You're carrying a tray of bread across the servants' hallway when a cup rattles on the edge. Only slightly. No one else mentions it. But every servant you pass has the same stiff shoulders, the same tight jaw. The queen is not seen today. Tyrion is. He walks fast, faster than usual, clutching a parchment that bends in the wind. Missandei trails behind him, lips pressed together like she's afraid to exhale. In the lower markets, soldiers now stand in twos. Each corner has a lookout. One wears a patch, not the queen's emblem, but a red sunburst. You've never seen it before. You don't ask, but you stare at it longer than you should. An old woman calls to you as you pass her stall. Cover your windows tonight, she says. Not for wind, for eyes. You don't respond, but you remember the way her voice cracked on the last word. In the pyramid's rear chambers, the stone masons patch old cracks with fresh mortar. They're careful, but not careful enough. You overhear one mutter. Won't matter when they come through the sewers. His partner shushes him. Too late. You've already heard it. And now you can't unhear it. You scrub the stairwell with tighter circles. Your hands are red from soap. You scrub anyway. Anything to stay moving. Because stillness invites fear. A raven arrives at dusk. The sound of its wings against the tiles is sharper than usual. It drops no message. Just lands on the high beam and caws. Once, loudly, then flies off. Later that evening, you see a woman burn her husband's armor in a brazier. She says nothing, just watches it curl into ash. When you ask why, she replies, "So it won't be used again." Night falls fast, too fast. The fog returns, thick this time. You cannot see the harbor lights. Only the glow behind the mist, like candles underwater. The sounds of the city muffle. Laughter is gone. Music is gone. Only the sound of rope pulling taut, metal clinking, leather creaking. The queen appears near midnight, walking along the terrace with Grey Worm. They don't speak much. You're too far to hear. But you see her stop. Look north. Just look. A moment so long it feels like the city holds its breath with her. Then she turns, says one word. You don't hear it. But Grey Worm nods, and the guards double at every entrance. You do not hear the explosion. You feel it. The way a horse feels the tremble of a coming stampede. The air thickens before it, like lungs bracing for impact. Then it hits, not in flame, but in sound. A pressure wave, dull and vast, slaps through the pyramid walls. Tiles shift. Dust falls from the ceiling like startled snow. You drop the tray in your hands. The bread rolls scatter. You don't move to catch them. Somewhere beyond the servant hall, shouting erupts. Not angry, urgent, steel on stone. The scream of a man whose leg no longer holds his weight. Then another, not human, high-pitched, shrill, like a horn twisted into a scream. You rush toward the window, slit above the laundry ramp. You see only smoke, thick, oily, wrong. Not the dark red plume of burning wood. This is white, fast, coated. Like chalk turned to vapor. You hear bells, not celebratory, alarm. 3 of them staggered, and that means attack from sea. The pyramid trembles again. A second blast, this one closer. You hear it hit stone, then splash. The harbor. They're targeting the docks. You know it, even though you've never seen siege ships before. Someone yells down the corridor. A steward, usually quiet, now with cracked voice. To the lower halls. All hands down. You don't move. You can't. Not until you see the shadow. Not a dragon. A ship, but not one of ours. Its sails are sharp, narrow, blackened at the tips. And as it crests the curve of the outer bay, you realize it does not approach. It aims. It isn't docking. It's hunting. Guards pour out from the side gate. The Unsullied line up. Not in parade form. In defense. Shields forward, spears low. The formation closes the market roads. Children are pulled off balconies. Merchants vanish like spilled wine into alleys. And then comes the sound that undoes you. A horn, long, low, cracked at the edge. Not ours. Not from this continent. A signal. And the fog answers it with silence. You never see the first man die. But you hear the way he lands. Not like a body, but like armor spilling into mud. The sound cuts through the stone corridors. It travels faster than footsteps, faster than orders, faster than fear. You are in the third hall now, pressed against a column with 6 others, cooks, linen boys, an old woman with a cracked pot in her hands who refuses to drop it. Above, the walls shake again. The lights flicker, not from wind, from the weight of something overhead. A figure rushes past, unsullied, blood on his left arm, eyes wide but silent. He does not cry out. He does not slow. But his path curves away from the throne level. That is how you know the danger is already inside. You follow others down the spiral hall, but only to the outer ring, not the basement. You cannot go underground tonight, not when the noise is above. You need sky. You need to see. Through a gap in the eastern wall, you glimpse them. Not an army, a precision. Figures in dark bronze, armor lacquered in muted greens and grays. No banners, no horns now. Just the wet sound of disciplined feet. moving as one down the marble roads, slicing between the market stalls like a blade through parchment. They don't shout, they point, and where they point, fire follows. You smell it before you see it, pitch oil lit not with torches, but with slivers of something that hums and cracks like sorcery. A man near the gate catches flame not from contact, but from proximity. He screams as the fire turns inward, eating not flesh, but shadow. A girl collapses beside you. No wound, just breathless. You lift her up, tuck her behind the spice crates. She doesn't thank you. Her eyes are open, but no longer watching. You leave her gently. From above, the queen's balcony stands empty, but the sky is not. A roar splits the clouds. Dragon. At first, you cannot believe it. The firelight dances on his wings as he circles once. A slow, wide arc, just enough to be seen. Not an attack, a reminder. And then he vanishes again into the smoke, letting the city burn without him. You run, not in panic, in rhythm. The kind your body remembers from nightmares. It never lived, only inherited. You pass the golden stair, now black with soot. The statues flanking the pyramid entrance no longer cast shadows. They're cracked, not from battle, but from something deeper. Pressure, force, a kind that warps the idea of stone. Inside, the servants scatter like birds. Some to the cisterns, some toward the dragon stables, fools, all of them. But you don't call them back. You carry only what you must. Water, a small cloth, your own name, and the memory of a face you may never see again. Hers. At the second tier, smoke floods the gallery. Not thick, not enough to choke. Just smart. It moves low. It crawls. It searches. You hold your breath as you pass it, stepping over a guard whose helmet has been split open like fruit. There is no battle cry. Only breath. Only footsteps. Only the sound of things that never should have reached this far. You hear them now. Voices. Not from Meereen. Not Essos. Short vowels. Harsh consonants. Clipped phrases that sound like teeth grinding stone. One word repeats. Barkhad. You do not know what it means, but it moves like a name and a curse in one. The throne room is shut. Ironwood beams across the main door. You know because you helped polish them 3 days ago. Now they bend. Not break, just groan, as if deciding whether to hold or surrender. Missandei appears near the east stair, her robe torn, her face calm, too calm. She sees you, does not speak, only gestures once. Down, you nod. You disobey, because something in your blood knows. If the center falls, nothing else matters. You slip into the left hall, toward the queen's private chamber. Guards lie there too, some curled, some frozen mid-motion, as if time itself betrayed them. And then it happens. The western wall shatters, not explodes, implodes, pulled inward, as though something outside has claimed it. Light pours in, not firelight, moonlight, but wrong, bent, carried on wings of ash, and you see them, the enemy, not soldiers, not men, figures in glass and armor that hums with silence. They do not speak. They enter, as if they belong. You do not blink, not out of defiance, out of disbelief. The figures stand framed in the broken wall like forgotten gods returned from sleep. Their armor reflects no fire, no light, only motion. Ripples like water inside steel. Their faces are masked, but not to conceal, to warn. Sloped visors, no eyes, just smooth, unbroken glare. They step forward, slowly, not hunting, claiming. The chamber resists. You hear the crack of wood trying to hold shape. Tapestries lift in sudden wind, dancing like silk ghosts. One falls into the fire pit and vanishes without flame. Even fire respects the silence they bring. Behind them, the moon shines too white, too perfect, as if this night is not real, only written. One of them turns. No words, just a tilt of the head, and the unsullied charge. They come from both flanks, shields forward, no shouts, no hesitation. The hallway explodes in motion, but the clash does not sound like battle. It sounds like glass breaking, over and over. Spears shatter against armor it does not dent. Blades stick, but do not bleed. And the silence holds. Even in death, you cannot move. Your knees betray you. You drop to one. Not in surrender, in survival. Someone grabs your shoulder, a hand, small, quick, Missandei. She pulls you back through the side corridor. You follow, not as a servant, as witness. You pass burning scrolls, overturned inkpots, a dead scribe still holding a half-written name, blood under his fingernails. And finally, you reach the Queen. Daenerys Targaryen stands before the unbroken window of the western wing. Her hands are bare, no crown, no armor. Only her eyes, pale, distant, not afraid. She looks not at the fire, but through it. Drogon lands behind the tower. The tremor is so vast, it stills the heart. You hear wings folding, stones falling. The city, beneath them, cowers. She turns once, to you. Not in command, not in fear, in recognition. And she says your name, only once. Only yours. No one else hears it. And then, the fire returns. But this time, it chooses sides.